Source material bonus content.
Brief history kind of catch us up. So this series ends. We go into Civil War. Ben Grimm, what's he doing here in Civil War? Any idea?
Okay, in Civil War, you had most of the Fantastic Four was pretty solidly on the registration side with Iron Man. And it's been a while since I've read this, but Ben, as I understood it, he didn't necessarily disagree with the idea of registration, but he wasn't going to go out there and hunt down and arrest his friends.
Yeah.
So Ben was actually a conscientious objector and spent most of the superhero Civil War in France.
Okay.
But he had one of my favorite moments in Civil War because, as things go on, there's a hero killed. Sue and Johnny start questioning things and actually go over to the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got that big knockdown drag out at the end, and there's a lot of collateral damage. Something happens. There's some people in danger, and Sue's trying to save them. And I think there was a bus, and somebody stops this bus that was careening toward these people. And it's Ben Grimm, and he says, "Susie, get your head in the game. We got to save these people." He's not there to bust anybody's heads, to punch out Iron Man or stop Cap. He's there to do what they should be doing,
and that's
protecting the people, which is what if you remember, Captain America finally realizes and why he stands down.
Yep.
So that was just a great Ben Grimm moment. He's like, yeah, I'm not here to beat up and argue. I'm here to keep people safe.
If I remember correctly, you said he was a conscientious objector, and you're right. I think one of his biggest issues, if I remember correctly, was he watched how this whole debate took its toll on the Fantastic Four, because Reed and Sue really start going at it.
Yeah.
I mean, Sue is like, at one point, I thought divorce was going to be occurring, because it felt like it was that bad. It was that big of a divide between the two.
And that's why they left. And you had that time when Black Panther and Storm took over in the Fantastic Four. Reed and Sue went to spend some time together, and so it was Thing, Human Torch, Black Panther, and Storm made up the Fantastic Four for a while.
Okay. So Civil War happens. What other big events? I think Secret Wars definitely needs to be talked about.
Right.
Was there anything else that occurred? Because we're talking 12 years of history here. I'm trying to think of what else happened leading up to Secret Wars in 2015.
Well, Johnny died. And
that's
came
right.
back. Yeah. I'm proud to say I called his death as the one who was dying, even though I wasn't reading Fantastic Four, because there had already been stories where Reed, Sue, and Ben died and came back. So I was like, well, it has to be Johnny.
Got to be Johnny. Yeah.
And at that point, Spider-Man joined for a while, and they changed the title to FF, which stood for Future
Foundation, right?
So you had Valeria, their daughter, Franklin, a bunch of other genius kids. So it kind of expanded their mission statement a little.
Yeah, Spider-Man had this was the white costume, right? Yep. Okay. Gotcha.
And so you had that, and then you had a run by Matt Fraction, and then Jonathan Hickman, who ended up writing Secret Wars, took over for Fantastic Four, carried a lot of his story from Fantastic Four into Secret War. I mean, it was this, line-wide, status quo altering story, but what it came down to was Mr. Fantastic versus Dr. Doom.
Yeah, it did. That was the final event. We covered this. That was the only event that we covered here on this show in real time. As they dropped, we would do a show on the issue the day it dropped. You could probably put together I think it was 8 and then 9 issue, 9 episode run as we talked about each issue as it dropped. But yeah, it come right down to it. Yeah, it was Reed Richards versus Dr. Doom. Did you read any of the Ultimate Fantastic Four?
I read some when the last movie came out, because as much as everyone was complaining that it didn't follow the comics, and it wasn't a very good movie, honestly. But it had a lot in common with Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Did it? Okay.
So I read about the first 3 or 4 volumes of that.
What do you think of the character portrayal of Ben Grimm over there?
I liked it. Okay, it was younger, and which was, I think, a good thing, because I mean, what Ultimates didn't need to do was just rehash a bunch of stories.
Yeah.
And so it was just a different version of them. It didn't necessarily connect with me, but honestly, a lot of the early Ultimate comics kind of turned me off.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I know we got some really different takes when it comes to the Ultimates.
Yeah.
So I know because, I mean, like the Hulk was like this horrible savage beast, and I mean, we had some pretty bad stuff that happened in that.
That's what turned me off.
Yeah. I didn't know if I never read any Ultimate Fantastic Four. I was curious about some of the stuff that happened. Now, doesn't that iteration of Reed like turn into a villain or something, and that's our villain in Secret Wars?
Which was my primary curiosity, other than the tie into the movie, and reading that, and I haven't gone far enough in to figure out how that happened.
Yeah, see, I remember when we were reading Secret Wars, I was like, who is this dude? What is he all about? And luckily I had Ronnie there to say, oh, this is the other version of Reed Richards. And of course, also had the kind of character breakdown at the beginning of every issue. Maybe I should have looked at that as well. But hey, but regardless, I didn't. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't know what turned him into that, but I thought that was an interesting switch on things. I imagine Reed Richards as a villain has got to be that's formidable.
Wow. He's the guy. I mean, it diminishes it a little bit, but he's basically tech support for the Marvel Universe on a massive scale. And so, the guy that you rely on to fix anything that's broken is the guy breaking stuff. That's not good.
No, it's not. No, it's not. All right, so the end of Secret Wars. Give us an idea, after the battle between Doom and Reed Richards is over with, where does that leave the Fantastic Four?
Well, you got Johnny and Ben back on Earth, and Reed and Sue and the kids are out there kind of reshaping the multiverse, kind of rebuilding it after everything is destroyed. And one of the things Reed does is he puts Doom back on the main Earth 616 and has healed his scars.
Yeah, he shows up I remember that was one of the big spoilers, because he ends up showing up at the end of, I don't know if, I know it was some other issue prior to the final issue of Secret Wars.
It was Iron Man.
That's right. Superior, is it Superior? What was it? Superior Iron Man?
Invincible Iron Man.
Okay. And so he shows up there, and his face is completely, he's a handsome fella. He's back to normal. So, that was one of the big changes.
Trying to make up for what he's done.
Yeah. Isn't Ben part of the Guardians of the Galaxy at first, and then...
Yeah, he's back out in space, and Johnny ends up dating Medusa, whose sister is his ex-girlfriend.
That's right. I was about to say, weren't they an item before? But no, it was Crystal.
And then and ends up on the Avengers too.
Okay.
Becoming the final member of the original Fantastic Four to become an Avenger.
Okay. So
yeah.
Well, then I guess that kind of brings us up to Fantastic Four #1. Well, one more thing before we get into it. Did you feel a hole in the Marvel Universe because the Fantastic Four was not there?
I kind of did, although, I think I bought the first issue when they came out with their red costumes and it was heading toward the end. But as much as I hated to see the Fantastic Four there, I didn't go out and buy the book and get Marvel to change their mind.
Okay.
So, I had to admit that. But yeah,
I really don't understand if they're going to try to say that they canceled that or took that off the shelves because of sales. I mean, this was a founding block in the Marvel Universe. I didn't read the title, but I hated the fact that team was not out there.
Well,
go ahead.
Part of it, and I mean, I don't know. You hear people speculate online, but I mean, that was around the time that Fantastic Four movie was coming out. And, I mean, if it's something like Deadpool, where it's going to make a lot of money no matter what, Marvel jumps on it. But when was the last time you saw any X-Men movie merchandising?
Exactly. Yeah, I talked to a lot of people who really said that the absence of the Fantastic Four was felt. They wanted this team back in some way, shape, or form. And so here we are, Bevins, August 2018, and the Fantastic Four finally, there's a Fantastic Four book on the shelves.
Yes.
We'll just put it that way. So, I mean, there's 3 stories that happen in this first issue. The last one is I think 1 page, so it's not really that. It's not really that groundbreaking. But our first,
although it meant a lot to me because it torpedoed my only criticism of the first issue.
Okay, all right. Well, so the first story, Signal in the Sky. really is. There's a few key events that happen in here. Obviously, we know that somehow the family's going to get back together. But really, this is a lot of what's going to happen prior to that occurring. Johnny has to come to grips that Reed, Sue, and the kids are gone, and that all occurs after some punk kid from Yancey Street, yet again, these kids from Yancey Street, get a Fantastic Four flare gun and shoots it up into the sky, getting Johnny's hopes up, and Ben Grimm unfortunately falls into a bit of a depression in regards to that. But yeah, so Johnny has to come to grips with the fact that, they're gone. And he's been holding on to this hope that if anybody could make it back, it would definitely be Reed figuring out a way to bring everybody back together again. We do have a reappearance of Shecky.
Well, because Ben, I guess, has set up kind of a little Fantastic Four museum there, and that's right, where the kids stole the signal flare from.
Okay. And we get a neat little untold Fantastic Four tale when they were out in space, apparently lost, and there was a lady there, or a alien being there that could help them find the way. And the only way that could happen would be as if her staff was powered, and she had to have somebody on the team power it. And here is a great way that Dan Slott just throws in a neat little family dynamic. And that's that family dynamic between Sue and Johnny, the brother-sister kind of rivalry that, I don't know if that's come out. I don't read a whole lot of Fantastic Four, so I don't know if that's really been played upon, but I could tell you that I've not ever seen that really played upon in what I've read. But yes, so this lady's like, you guys got to help power this. So they're all trying to figure out how to power it. And she says, you got to power it by song. So immediately they are like, she goes, who's the best singer? And Sue's like, I am, but everybody else is like Johnny, 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 Johnny. So she has to come to grips with the fact that her brother actually her younger brother does something a little bit better than her. Granted, that definitely wasn't highlighted, but it was a neat little way to kind of show that sibling rivalry that they have.
The other thing that jumped out to me about that is in between Hickman's run and then James Robinson's run that closed it out, you had Matt Fraction, who threw in something about Johnny being a pop star.
Oh,
and I was like, well, that's weird. I don't remember them ever saying anything about that. But I kind of wonder if Slott didn't maybe take a little inspiration from that and say, okay, well, let's show that Johnny's always had a voice. So, or it could be a coincidence. I don't know, but that was. That was very cool, and I think a good preview of how he's going to handle those family stories.
Yeah, and the other big thing out of this was the fact that when they were on their way home, supposedly the staff shine this light so bright that everybody can see, and they can see their way home, including Alicia. So she was with them on this trip. She's blind, ladies and gentlemen, but she could see this light, and the being says, well, you may not be able to see it with your eyes, but your heart can always see something along those lines. Your heart can always see the way home. So anyway, she thought it was beautiful. She couldn't believe she could see it. So that gets Thing to thinking, and he finds part of that gem and he puts it into a ring, and oh my goodness, boy, do we have a moment here. This is probably the moment of issue 1 where the Thing proposes to Alicia Masters.
Long time coming.
Yeah, that's that. The thing I was reading, one of the comments that I saw about this issue was, I hope it's for real this time. So yeah, you said this is a long time coming. They've had their on and off stuff. So it's kind of neat to see that actually be a possibility. That might be the way Dan Slott's going to go here. And so, yes, Ben Grimm, Alicia Masters getting married. As he asked Johnny to be his best man, that's where things really flip because Johnny, he doesn't want to let go here. He does not want to let go of the fact that instead of him, it should be Reed. And because Ben is asking Johnny to do this, he believes Ben has given up on the fact that Reed and Sue are coming back. He has kind of what you would call a meltdown. But soon after that, I don't know if another day goes by or if it's that same night, but Reed and Sue have been working tirelessly to try and figure out if there's a way to possibly get back to the 616. And Reed's, of course, invented some kind of contraption. And at the end of the issue, there is a large 4 in the sky. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not just in the sky, it's in space. It is huge. everybody practically on one side of the earth can see this thing, I'm sure. Ergo, the beginning of our adventure, I believe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely kind of Slott, making his mark and setting it up. I said the one pager that Scotty Young did at the end with the Impossible Man fuming because they're not actually back together in the first issue was kind of what I was thinking. And they sort of torpedoed that, but and that flashback, you did see them together. You did get a taste of Dan Slott writing the Fantastic Four and kind of linking it to the past. So yeah, I'd been reading Marvel 2-in-1, the revamp of my favorite series that Chip Zdarsky's been writing, that was based on the idea that the Thing and Johnny realize they're losing their powers because Reed and Sue aren't there anymore. And the Thing being fairly certain that Reed and Sue are gone for good, but not telling Johnny that.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and hanging out with Doom along the way.
Yeah,
so,
we've got to definitely talk about Doom, because that's our second story here for sure. And I know you said you've got a good idea of what's happened up to this with Doom.
Well, they did an annual Marvel 2-in-1, and whereas the first, I think, 8 issues have been the Thing and the Torch. In the original series, it was usually a rotating guest star. But this one actually is the Thing and the infamous Iron Man, which is, of course, the identity Doom took on after Tony Stark disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's Doom, through a series of events, finds out what he forgot about the end of Secret War. The classic Doctor Doom story, Doom is always after ultimate power, from when he tried to steal the Silver Surfer's power cosmic to stealing the Beyonder's power in Secret War. And when he gets it, he just doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that Secret Wars, Doom finally, he got everything.
Yeah, he was a god.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
he's practically God.
And his obsession with Reed Richards still brought him down.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't, Reed survived the end, but Doom, his, obsession, fixation, and even fear of Reed Richards is what ultimately brought everything down.
Mm-hmm.
They flash back, and there's a moment where Doom says, okay, even though I've lost ultimate power, I'll never stop coming after you. And so it's revealed that Reed didn't just fix his face, he made Doom believe that he was really gone.
Huh.
So the emptiness isn't just, the post Secret War stories with Doom have been, okay, you got ultimate power and you still weren't satisfied. So what's going to satisfy you? And it turns out that's not just it. It's the real driving force to beat Reed Richards was gone.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Now, how he gets from that to what we see in Fantastic Four #1, I think Mr. Slott's going to reveal that over the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing the infamous or invincible, whatever he is, Iron Man, and he's been acting as a hero for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, and here we are, our Day of Doom and Victory. The second story really is not much other than the return of Dr. Doom to Latveria. What I assume is the introduction of a supporting character.
Zora Vukovic.
Zora. Okay. Heard of this person at all? New?
No.
Okay. All right. So, yes.
He's new, but I thought Shecky was new, so.
Well, that's all right. So Zora shows up. She's wanting to talk to Doom. She's accosted by all these Doom bots. Doom actually shows up. He's just wearing his cloak. She convinces him to put on his mask. And then you have this, this moment where you're seeing Doom show up in Latveria and taking control back, I guess you would say, letting everybody know that he is there. So there's nothing in here that makes me think that this guy is going to be a villain immediately. There's nothing in here that makes me think that he's going to be a hero. He's definitely Doom. That's for sure. I mean, there's no question about it. It's not like Slott's writing him different. You can tell this is definitely Dr. Doom, or at least acts like him for sure. So
you've got him. He doesn't seem to be. He seems to be kind of rejecting the technology side of things, which he has done before in Wade's run. In one of the more disturbing portrayals of Doom, but it's Mark Waid, so it's still good. But I think I've read in some interviews, I mean, Dan Slott says this is going to be a different Doctor Doom. So, he's tried heroism. his reason for being is about to come back.
Yep.
So,
I'm wondering if he is going to be one of the reasons to bring them back. I have this feeling that he's going to either be involved and try to bring that would be perfect. Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, Reed Richards play, where Reed Richards now has to be thankful to Doctor Doom for getting them back to the universe that they belong in. I could see that being a part of it. There is. You talk about him rejecting the technological or the technology side of things. Yeah, when he shows up, I mean, he's like got Doctor Strange hand signals going on and all sorts of crazy, what looks to be magical, like, wards coming off his hands.
Yeah.
So he's clearly embraced that magic part of his background. So let's get your opinion overall of Fantastic Four #1. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say on top of that. I would love to hear if you have. I know you're a writer, sir. So I would love to hear your opinion as to what we got 12 years ago versus what we have now from Dan Slott. If you see any difference, it's kind of hard to compare 8 issues to 1 issue. I know that for sure. But if you see anything out there, please talk on it. So the floor is yours.
Well, the one major difference is, Dan Slott's in the driver's seat now. The thing, as much fun as it was, he kind of couldn't step outside what was going on in Fantastic Four. He wasn't going to have the thing up and quit the Fantastic Four and anything like that. So he's in the driver's seat now, and with the goodwill and credibility he's built up with Spider-Man. Sure, there's people who didn't like it, but there's somebody that doesn't like everything. You
can't go 10 years without somebody saying, well, that part sucked.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the whole 10 years was bad, but you're going to have some criticism for sure. But yeah, you're right. He now has a lot more pull than what he did 12 years ago.
He's got to be at this point the only writer outside of, the most influential writer outside of Stan Lee when it comes to Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The fact is that the Fantastic Four, even though a lot of us didn't expect we'd ever see them totally gone, have kind of fallen by the wayside. So, and then here you've got, especially now that Bendis has left for DC, the biggest gun in Marvel's arsenal out to redefine their longest, with the exception of the Torch and Captain America, but one of their longest running flagship titles. And I do expect a lot of humor, like we got in the Thing, and like we got throughout his run on Spider-Man. But he showed, he's up there with guys like Peter David and Joss Whedon to me as far as being able to balance humor and drama.
Yep.
Just in the brief sample size with that flashback, he can write the family dynamic. I'm going to be shocked if I don't like it.
Yeah.
I like many people, I was bitter and remain somewhat bitter about the whole One More Day storyline with Spider-Man. And, I had read Joe Straczynski's run from the very start, and I didn't like the way they ended it. I didn't care about One More Day, or Brand New Day, especially when they were cranking it out 3 times a month. But I eventually got curious, got some books from the library. Superior Spider-Man, I was all in on.
That was an interesting take.
Absolutely loved that. And then, finally, too little too late, but when Legacy came around, I'm like, why am I getting these from the library? Why am I not buying Dan Slott's Spider-Man?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started buying it, and then they said, oh, by the way, he's wrapping up his run. I'm like, okay,
of course.
But then, Fantastic Four, Slott said that with the Marvel Treasury Edition, collecting the original Galactus trilogy was his first comic. So this has been, his 2 goals as a writer were to write Spider-Man and write Fantastic Four.
Nice.
So it's possible he'll do something that I don't enjoy, but I'm going to be surprised because he made me want to give Marvel money to read about Spider-Man again after One More Day, which I just said I wasn't going to do.
Yeah.
And I loved his take on the Thing, and he's always been my favorite member of the Fantastic Four. And if he can get me to like Johnny, a little more, then we'll be in business. One thing I think will be neat to see is, we saw in the thing some characters that he brought forward and or from other works or carried on. So I'm kind of curious to see. We had Shecky in there. I'm kind of curious to see maybe what unexpected characters might come back. But the thing I'm wondering about is they never really did a great job of explaining. I mean, I know Reed and Sue and the family were out there reshaping the multiverse, but I'm still not 100% clear on why Ben is so sure they were dead and Johnny isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be the source of some drama, because Johnny especially, and I think Ben too, is going to want to know, why did you let us think you were gone?
Yeah.
And Ben, as we can see with that, I think Ben's to the point where he's going to wonder, but I think he's going to be able to move on from it a lot better than Johnny.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's going to hold some resentment when they come back. There's going to be, I just know already that he's so emotionally affected by what happened that there's going to be some tough times ahead that this family's got to get through. And
I'm looking forward to him bringing in, especially Valeria, the daughter. When Matt Fraction was writing it, and a few other things I've read, she's a really neat character. So I'll be interested to see what he does with her.
Yeah, I know a little bit about her. Obviously, what I read in the Secret Wars, she was a bit of a prominent player in there, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do want to throw out this one comparison that I saw. I mean, it clearly, for me to critique writing, I'm not good at it because I'm not, I may write a little bit, but nothing on the lines of what this guy's accomplished. But
same here.
I can see almost like a physical difference in the amount of story that he tells. Fantastic Four #1, and some of the amount of words that he used back in 2006 has definitely decreased. So he may have figured out a better way to rely upon the artist to maybe tell the story. That's not to say that his ideas are not coming through there. It's just that he's finding an easier way not to bog the story down with so much. It's not an overabundance of exposition as to what's going on, who's doing this, what's he thinking, what are they thinking. And there really wasn't a whole lot of that in the 8 issues from 2006, but there was enough to where I could tell there's a difference now. Definitely a now. So, but hey, I'm on board. I know a lot of people were excited that that the Fantastic Four have returned.
Tune in Mondays at 9 a.m. for source material on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.